Hey folks, welcome to iHeart Board Games. It's Jesse, and it's Ronald over there. We just visited Origins Game Fair in Columbus, Ohio for the first time. You'll hear our thoughts about that in another video, but for this one, we're just talking about the games. This is our top 10 games that we played at Origins, not necessarily for the first time, but just take into account all the games we played, which was a lot. But first, we're going to start off with
this is for 2024, our first time ever going to Origins.
Good point, because we're kind of late to the game. This is a convention that I believe has been growing and then fell down like most did during the pandemic. But then all of a sudden, lately, the vendors stopped showing up. But, we'll talk about that in that other video. But right now, we're going to mention...
Here.
Yeah, click wherever it is. It should be like right here or something. Honorable mentions before we go into the top 10. These are some games that didn't quite make our top 10. And I'm going to start us off with a game from AEG that Melissa picked up in I guess it's the virtual flea market, called Wallpaper.
Old wallpaper.
That old wallpaper. I wrote wallpaper on my notes. And the reason that made my list is because after we played it, I felt like I was thinking about it still, which is strange because I take into account BGG scores a lot, maybe more than I should, and this is a 6.3 game. And maybe people really went with their first impressions on that, but I think it's worth a revisit if you haven't played it before. Where's this rank for you, Ronald?
I guess we'll find out.
Oh, okay. You're not willing to say yet. What's your honorable mention?
Okay, my first honorable mention is Roll Camera. This is a game where you're making a film studio, and it was fun, but it kind of was a little bit long, and it is a big cooperative game. It was cute, it was very quirky and funny, but to me, it didn't quite make the top 10. But I did want to mention. I should also mention that any games that I had played excessively before the convention, I took out of the ranking. I only wanted to rank kind of things that getting a taste for the first time. There are some that I played once or twice before, but nothing that I played extensively. I took, like Great Western Trail I played while I was there. It would have easily been number one, but I played it so many times I didn't.
I feel that way too, because I taught some games there that I do like, and I didn't include them in this list. It's almost as if this list was influenced by my cult of the new, but not necessarily what was new to everyone.
Exactly that. Some of these games might have been older. We just had only experienced them for the first time in 2024 or.
So I know you ranked everything. I did not do that, but Roll Camera was not anywhere on my list. I really like the theme, and I really like everything you said about it. It's just the co-op aspect didn't pull me in. I really wish there is or was a competitive version of this somehow, or I don't know.
If you know of somebody on BGG that's created a homebrew competitive mode, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I really like the filmmaking theme because I've made a few myself. But anyway, so moving on to my next honorable mention. This is a game from Korea Board Games called Coffee Rush. In this game, the components are all so delightful, and I really like that part of it the most. The game itself, if it was cubes, I don't know if it would be on this list. I'm willing to give it another try because, they believed in the game so much and made it so nice. I think it's worth revisiting, maybe with a different player count. We played with 4 players. This might even be a good 2-player game. I don't know, see it going back and forth like that. What'd you think of Coffee Rush?
It didn't make my list. It's down at number 15 for me.
Oh, that's not bad.
I agree with you that the components were super cute, but the actual gameplay, it kind of, to me, devolved into this, get the items and try to make the thing. Oh, you can't make the thing, you lose some things. It was just too simplistic, ultimately. I did love the components, though. It was so cute. And I would play it again, absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like at 2-player, it could be kind of like a old school Dr. Mario thing, where if somebody is doing well, they're pushing all these orders to the other person, which happens in that game. I know we're not going over the game too much. Think Dr. Mario if you know that game from 1986 or whenever it's from.
Well, my next honorable mention is actually I think it's a Spiel des Jahres nominee. It's Captain Flip.
Wow, Captain Flip did not make my tops.
It's just a dumb little game where you pull a tile out of a bag. You can either take what's on the front or you can risk it and go for the back. Once you risk it and go go for the back, you can't flip it back over unless you get something later that lets you. And you're just putting it, it's a tile laying. I love tile laying. And it doesn't hurt that I won this game. That also always go up in your listing. Yeah. It's a family weight game for sure. I think there is some more to be held there. There's like other boats you can play with. We were obviously playing just the beginner mode on almost all these games. So I think there's more to be found in that game. Because we all went for different strategies, and the scores, if I remember correctly, were pretty tight.
Yeah, and this game's on BGA, Board Game Arena, if you want to try it out.
I didn't know that. Let's play.
Yeah, it is. That's where I first played it, and I played it on there. I should preface this by saying I usually don't even read the rules when I jump into games on BGA because it's so easy to just click, especially for a game that looks the way it looks. And when I played it, I'm just like, is this really all it is? It's just me choosing that? I mean, you know the rules the moment you jump in without even reading the rules. It's just so easy and explained to you in your first move. Maybe because it's too simple, I didn't add this to my list. I have room for simple games, and I know there are some simple ones on my list, but that one may be too simple or didn't have me wanting to play it again or wanting to bring it back for more, I guess. I don't know. I'd play it on BGA, though. So Heart Board Games on BGA. What's your name on BGA, Ronald?
Games? Or Ronald Hart's BD Games.
Oh, is it? I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
I just type in Ronald and it comes up. All right, so my next one, I worry about where this is on your list, but my number, I guess you would call it 11, is Rear Window. This has been coined as a Mysterium killer. I don't know if it's earned that title from our play, but I really like it. So if you know the game Mysterium, this game is similar to that. One person is playing the director, and the other players are the watchers. It's a co-op sometimes. If there's a murderer amongst the 4 people that the watchers are watching, then it's not a co-op. It makes more sense when you get to the table. Think Mysterium, but the ghost is against you in that case.
It's really a very simple game. We got unlucky that we did have a murderer in our very first play, and we, the watchers, Jesse was the director, we couldn't just figure out how we were meant to figure that out. We didn't have enough information to have solved that. We solved everything else correctly, except for the murder part. For me, this one landed at number 17, so...
not as bad. Out of how many?
A little bit below. Out of 28.
Okay, just to give people an idea of where this ranks.
Not too bad, but not too good either.
I mean,
I would play it again. Absolutely, I would give it another try. I would love to try it again, especially as the director. But
after we go over your number 1, I want to hear what your bottom 3 were.
Oh, well, I think you actually could guess.
We'll see after these top 10s. Your final...
Yeah, my final honorable mention, number 11, if you want to call it, was Illiterati. This is a word game, kind of. Everyone has a hand of letters, and you're working together. It's kind of, there's a theme there that you're like fighting a monster or something. You're fighting the illiterati. You have to make words of a certain variety, and you can share letters. The teach wasn't super great on this one. I was a little lost at first, but once we found our way and started doing it, I was like, okay, I can see how neat this could be.
Yeah, I would play it again. It didn't breach in my top at all.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna have like no overlaps.
Well, that one didn't breach at all because I did my puzzle really quickly, and then I was pretty much out of the game by my own choice, because I was like, okay, y'all finish the game. I'll come back in for the finale.
Rules for something
exactly.
Else.
And in a convention, you got to do it that way. You got to be reading rules.
The game gives you the option to be out or come back in. Mm-hmm. And so Jesse was like, I'm done, so I'm just going to chill over here and read these rules. And so
I did.
Prepare for the next game.
And,
let's get to
time
the
well
actual
spent.
top 10 then.
All right, so I'm going to start us off.
Time on these honorable mentions.
Yeah, so I'm going to start us off with my top 10. I was between, is this game too easy? This is another one that I thought might be too easy, but it made it into my top 10, and that is Harmonies. So this is a game that's actually...
Crossover alert, my number 10 is also Harmonies.
Number 10?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Wow, that's okay. We were worried, so we could both talk about this.
There was going to be no overlap, and then a perfect overlap.
Now, the reason this is another one that I kept thinking about, it feels so relaxing to look at and play. And I think I could teach this one in about 2 minutes. So let me try right now. In this game, everyone has a tableau, and you're picking up these terrain markers that are stacked in groups of 3 for people to choose from. So you take your group of 3, and there's different ways you can play them. You can play them as trees if they're tree markers, or you can play them as mountains if they're gray mountains, or buildings. Just a landscape, and it looks really nice. But above that, you have these animals that all want to be in a particular landscape pattern. So if you build that landscape pattern, you get to add an animal to your tableau and get some points out of it. And you just do that over and over again. And the rules aren't restrictive to where it's not fun. It's like, if you feel like you can do it, only one animal per terrain spot, and that's just enough to make you feel like, oh, I can manipulate my board enough and get all my animals out. And I really like that game. Would I own it? If I see it in a store and I'm there to support the store and there's nothing else, I might pick that up.
I kind of compared it to Tiny Towns. If you've played Tiny Towns, you're taking some stuff and putting it in this tableau, and you're trying to organize it in the best possible way to, score a bunch of different things. I didn't get very lucky in that game. I feel like you got really lucky that a lot of your stuff kind of comboed together and worked together. My stuff did not do that. But also, we didn't know what we were doing. We were just playing for the first time, which then made me think, I would like to play that again. And I think that one's also nominated for some kind of Spiel something or other.
Yeah, I think it's a 2024 Spiel des Jahres nominee. I don't think it's not complicated enough to be the Kenner Spiel.
Nah, it's pretty simple. You could probably, I don't know if you could teach your grandma, but you could certainly teach your aunt. Depends on your grandma.
So that was both of our number 10s. So I guess we could just move on.
Breezy. Maybe we'll have the exact same top 10 list.
That would be nuts.
We have not shared with each other.
I don't think it will be. So it's going to break away right here at number 9. I'm sure of it, because my number 9 is a game I've played plenty before, but it's on this list because I put a little note on here that said, why don't I own this? And that game is So Clover. It's a co-op game where everyone has a card with 4 different words on it, written on each side. Think north, south, east, west. It's in a formation that's a 2x2 on your board. And at the end of these 2x2s, you're writing a word that matches the 2 words that are adjacent to it. So I think if I have 2 cards, and on the west side of both of them is
pancake car.
Pancake car. So I would write a word that makes me think pancake car. And then at the end of that, I would take all the cards, shuffle them together, add another card to it. And then the rest of my team has to figure it out without me being part of it. Everyone's doing that at the same time.
Go? Where around the square do those cards go?
Yeah. I like So Clover, and every time I play it, I have a good time doing it. I think I'm pretty clever with the words, and maybe that's why I like it a lot. Where does that rank for you, Ronald?
So Clover. It made number 14 for me, so it's just 14. Outside of this list. But I do like that game. I don't need to own it. It's just a little cute party game. It's a little icebreaker.
Yeah. So what's your number 9?
My number 9 was taught to me by you, actually, at the convention, and I could not leave it off my list. It is Steffenfeld's Bonfire.
Wow. You seem so confused the whole time.
The majority of the game being confused. That's for sure. Even going so far as to ask Melissa for help. Ooh. Melissa is our Steffenfeld expert around here, but I was Melissa, help me. I don't know what's going on. But I have this problem where I feel more confused than I really am. Sometimes I don't understand anything, when in actuality I understand like 90%. And I think I understood enough to realize that I would play that again, sure. I mean, I am a Feld fanboy. Mm-hmm. I don't have a lot of his games, but I do like his designs often. And Bonfire, yeah. I don't know if you even put that on your list, because it's one that you're really familiar with.
Yeah, that's one of them that I do like, but did not include. That game really intimidated me for a long time. We've had it on our shelf since like 2022, and we didn't learn it till this year. I don't know. Every time I jumped into the rule book, I was just like, this does not make sense. And then you just have to get through a game of it in order to be like, oh, I get it. It's a Feld.
There's not really much of a theme to it. It's just a bunch of different cool mechanisms working together, and there's ways to break the rules, which I
heard there's actually quite a theme to it, because there's a website that breaks down the whole story of the game. I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
I didn't experience that, so
no.
I didn't feel that whilst I was playing. So
no, I agree with you, and I've said that the whole time. It wasn't. We were playing it on stream, twitch.tv/heartboardgames, leave the eye out. And someone in the chat was saying, oh, there's a whole website that goes over the lore of all this. I'm like, nah, it's just a Feld for me. and that's okay. For once, it's like a blue-themed Feld instead of a beige and brown-themed Feld. At least has that going for it.
They hired a blue artist this time.
All right, so my number 8, a game called Mystic Paths. This is a word game where there's a big circular board, and you're trying to guide your across 10 different words. And you do that by giving other people hints. And I think that's like a majority vote or something. We were just like, once we heard the answer we wanted, we were like, yep, that's it. But I mean, we played it right. But yeah, you got to get through these 10 clues. And every step of the way, there are these mystic paths that lead to other words that may not be yours or may not be yours at the moment. And yeah, I just really I like word games, and that just took the word game idea and turned it on its side. I mean, I do have some, if this were a ding and dent, I would say there are some dents against it, as far as like the confusion of the circle board and trying to, rotate your card the way. I mean, they do make circle cards. I don't see why they didn't do that, but I really liked it. I liked how you can get like 6 players playing the game, and I thought it played pretty quickly because everybody's involved the whole time. So where did this rank for you?
This is number 24 for me. This is almost at the very bottom of the pile.
All right. Well, there we go. That's okay. We still have the bottom 3 to look forward to, though, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That starts at 20.
There's still 4 more below that one. Yeah.
So what gave it that rank for you?
I just didn't really find it very fun. I do like word games also, and I like cooperative games. It's just this one did not hit for me. One of the problems was the whole needing to rotate your card to figure out your path.
Yeah.
And then the words were just, maybe we just got unlucky that we had really similar words, but it was oftentimes like you'd get to a spot and you only have a certain number of adjectives you can use to say like, I want to go that way and not that way. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's like the only thing you can put out leads to like 3 of the options. It's like, well, sorry. And then you have like a timekeeper basically that's keeping you from finishing the game. Like you can only play a certain number of rounds, and then you're supposed to check your results at that
yeah,
point.
And that makes sense since it's a co-op game. I didn't feel like that was too big of a deal. But then again, I was pretty far along. Maybe I felt that way because I did so well in it. That influences me a little bit.
We all did well. I mean, I think we almost had a perfect score.
Almost.
I would play it again.
Yeah.
I don't need to own it or anything.
I don't need to own it. I don't think so. But I mentioned that for So Clover just because I played it so many times.
You really should have So Clover. I'm surprised you don't.
Yeah, it seems like a game up my alley. I'll keep my eye out for it at a virtual flea market. But what is your number 8?
Is something I don't have to keep my eye out for because I do own it. It is a trick-taking game called Sandbag. It's one of the games I bought at the convention, actually. We got to a demo, and then I bought it from the actual game's designer. Didn't know that. Jesse was like, that was him. And I'm like, oh my God, let me go back and talk to him. I can't think of his name right now.
Ted Alspach, or Alspach.
There you go, Ted Alspach, famous game designer. And so this game is a regular old trick-taking game, except you only play 4 rounds, and you're going to put some of your cards out on offer that other people can basically buy from you in exchange from something in their hand. So there's this push and pull of you want to put something that's good because you want people to take it, but you also don't want to take something that's really good out of your hand. Mm-hmm. You want to keep all the really good stuff for yourself. And then the further you get behind, you get more and more with what they call sandbags. These sandbags let you escape out of a trick because in this game you want the fewest tricks. So the sandbag just never wins. So that helps you to lose more tricks, which is always going to help improve your score. And we had some people who are really far behind, but because of all those sandbags they kept accumulating, the end game ended up being like kind of close. So that's a catch-up mechanism that actually worked.
And this game has so many more layers than I first thought. We have it as well. Melissa picked it up, and we'll be playing it a lot more, especially because it's my number 7. Not that we're going to number 7 yet, but that I am next to talk about number 7.
Yes,
so it's almost a crossover in that regard. The thing, I really like it as a trick taker. And by the way, we played a lot of trick takers this convention.
Boy, did we.
And this was one of them, one of the better ones. I was thinking when I was looking at the game, I was like, I really wish the art was better, but there's not a lot you can do with hot air balloons and sandbags. It really is simple. I did notice that they add sandbags in the 1 to 10. Like at the 10, you can see more of the landscape, and then the 1, there's only 1 sandbag and it's up in the sky. So you can kind of make a moving picture out of all the cards. But
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's a small thing. But I really like the keeping the sandbags close to you as a catch-up mechanism. It's a really well done game because we played other trick takers that may be in your bottom 3. But but we'll talk about that after we talk about our number ones. So I guess you can go over to your number 7 because that was pretty much mine as well.
Well, my number 7 is another trick taker.
Oh, okay.
This one is called Cat in the Box. And I had played it once or twice on BGA, but never in person. And this one is interesting because your cards don't naturally have any suits. There's no suits in the game really until you play it and then you say it's yellow or it's red or whatever. So you might back yourself into a corner because you might run out of yellow cards when yellow has been played. It's just really interesting. It's a neat little cute trick taker, and the best part is when you like go into what's it called, a paradox,
right, where you can't make anything true.
And you can't do anything, you get a paradox, and you basically like don't get any points that round. And I think that happened to me maybe 3 times during the game. And the fact that I came away with such a bad score and I still really like the game, that's a testament, right? Like when we really lose and we still like the game, that means that must be a really good game. So that's my number 7 is Cat Box.
Is this a game you own?
I do not own it.
So
it's on BGA.
And it's a tough one to explain, like, in so few words, because that whole these cards don't exist until they exist thing is a little strange. But
I think your best bet is to just play one round as a practice round.
Yeah.
And just let everybody see how it works. Because once you do it one time, you're like, oh, I totally get it now.
This one may appear again, and I'm going to let you know a little detail about Cat in the Box maybe later. No, definitely later. But let's talk about my number 6. And my number 6 is one I was worried about playing because I've only heard, like, this game's so long. It's going to take you forever. So we decided to take this back to the hotel lobby and play it. This is a game called Pret-a-Porter. And I never thought I would have a top 10 or a Portal game in any top 10s because I am not a fan of Portal games. Outwardly so, I don't mind saying that. If you want to win me over with Portal games, this is the only game that's kind of done that to where like, okay, I could see a game here. I see some issues with it, but it's still a good time since we're all kind of dealing with the same issues that I think about. But in this game, you're a person in the fashion business and you're designing all of these different collections of clothes. You have a period where there's a show.
Fashion show.
And that's your time to show off your collection and get it sold and make money. So you can go back and do it all again, hopefully with a bigger collection, get even more money and multiply that. You're hiring people while you're doing it. You're expanding buildings that also give you new abilities and stuff like that. Meanwhile, all that time, you're paying for it all because that's what business is. Business costs money. And this game does take a while. I believe we were sitting there for like 4 hours or something like that, 4 or 5 hours.
It didn't help that I was trying to teach and I really didn't fully understand the game myself.
I don't think there's a world
Still not sure
where
we played it fully right. The rule book is an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
The last time I played it, someone had like a really nice player aid they printed off BGG that real inline and had everything we needed on it. We didn't have that because they had just bought the game.
But as a first-time player at that table, whatever you were feeling, I was feeling like it was going pretty well. So for what that's worth. I enjoyed it. We really didn't know who was going to win that. Like for the whole time, I thought Ramp is just running away with this game the whole time.
I thought I knew who was going to win, and
right.
I'm not really sure what happened to change that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was just like, in that last round, I was just thinking, okay, these are the best things I can do, and this will give me the biggest multiplier at the end. And it worked out for me. But that's one of the issue. I don't know if it's an issue, but I guess it's an observation about that game. It has to end right there. Because if that thing goes on for another round, it's going to be so out of control. The math was it's pretty crazy how much math is involved, especially when you have these first 2 rounds. The whole thing takes place over 5 rounds. The first 2 rounds, you're dealing with like under $100 every time. Then by the final round, you're getting up to like $500, which is a multiplier of 5 is pretty wild for a game like that, just because it gets out of control really fast because you have all of your people hired. You have all your buildings made, and they're all doing their thing that just gets you these giant scores at the end. It's not a slow ramp up. It's sudden in round 3 and 4. It's just so between the rulebook and the unexpected sudden ramp up, those are things that I'm iffy about, but I really like the theme of the game. I really like how it just gives you step by step by step by step. And so that's why it's my number 6 for the convention.
It's my number 26 out of 28.
Whoa!
It's a game I've played 3 times before, and I don't need to ever play it again.
Wow.
It's not a game I like.
Wow, it probably didn't make you feel good teaching it, I I guess, as well.
I was trying to give it another try, like give it another chance. Maybe there's something there if I play with a different group that I will find.
With like a experienced Predator teacher might make you feel better about it.
I think I'm good.
Okay.
I'd rather spend 4 hours playing something I like.
Yeah. No. Okay.
I've already wasted enough of my life on that one.
There you go.
Rococo is the fashion game I was with.
Yes, that's a much better game.
My number 6, you already mentioned before. It's That Old Wallpaper.
Wow.
It's basically a tile laying game, which I love tile laying. You're making patterns, and we didn't quite understand the scoring while we were playing the game. We didn't find out till the end, till afterwards, how the scoring was meant to work. And boy, that would have absolutely changed how we played, how all of us played. And I really wish we played it a second time because I didn't really get the right taste of it. It just made me think about it even more and want to play it again. Beautiful components. It does look like old wallpaper, and
yeah, you really got to tally while you go.
What I think it boiled down to was there's like big symbols and little symbols, and in the end, you want them to be even. You want to have like the same amount of. We didn't realize that, so some people had like 6 and 0 or like 6 and 1
because it's a
like
multiplier.
Scores, yeah. So it's like we didn't really know what we were doing. I mean, we understood how to play, we just didn't understand the scoring. And
I do like that.
So what about number 5?
Number 5 for me is one you've already mentioned. It's Cat in the Box. And the only detail I wanted to add to that is that there's a colossal version of Cat in the Box, which is a really big Cat in the Box. So I think if I'm going to get it, I'm going to get Colossal Cat in the Box. I don't know how much bigger it is, but I feel like if I have the option to get a giant version of that, I am. Because I do feel like the small one is a little too small. The cards are fine, but I mean, I guess I wouldn't want the cards to be too much bigger, but it sounds fun to play a colossal version of that. But that's my number 5 that we talked about. They did
have a colossal version of one of your favorites, Galaxy Trucker, at the convention. I'm sad we didn't get a chance to play it.
Yeah, me too. Maybe next time. Maybe next time I'll get a chance to play it.
All right, my number 5 is, I think, another one of these Spiel nominees. It's called In the Footsteps of Darwin.
Wow.
This is another little tile laying game where you're laying down
tiles. You really like tiles. Jeez.
I really like tile laying games. It's a family weight game. It's very simple. There's a few different things that you can combo together as you're laying down different animals, different colors. That's kind of it. That's all there is really to it.
It's so
over
simple.
Before you know it. I think there's like a display of tiles you're choosing from to take. So it's not a draw out of the bag situation. That gives you a little bit more flexibility on your turns. You can also cover up your tiles with like an upgrade or something that's just going to be better for you going forward. I liked that. It's my number 5.
Yeah, it's a 3x3 grid.
It's not on your list at all.
It's not. It's a fine game, but it's like I was saying earlier that some of these games are so simple that I feel like they didn't make it on there. And also, I think Harmonies was almost a victim of that as well, that it was so simple. I like the theme of that more than I like the Darwin one. Whereas in the Footsteps of Darwin, it's more about thematically speaking, you're a writer at writing these things, drawing these things. Whereas in Harmonies, you're building the landscape. You're putting the animals in the land and stuff like that instead of just documenting them, I guess. But it's a fine game. I'd play it again in a night. I don't need to own it. An expansion it might add a little more meat.
It's simple. It's easy to teach. These are just all things I love in a game, and it's tile laying, so how could it not be my number 5?
But let's talk about my number 4. So my number 4 is a delicious little game that is served up on a little tray, and it's called Charcuterie. This is I don't know who designed this game. I don't even think it's out yet. I think it's...
Color me shocked. Okay.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this game, I mean, it does so much on the table for looks, and the rules are really simple. I split, you choose. This might even be a New York slice killer for me. I don't know. I've got to play both multiple times again.
Wow.
But I really like just the charcuterie board options. I like how it has a bit more options than New York slice. I always get burned in New York slice. I really like the presentation of it, but I feel like you're either really far ahead or you're so far behind in New York slice. And in this one, I feel like, I'm doing my own thing. I don't have to worry so much about everyone else, but I still want to make those stacks that I'm giving to everyone else as even as possible, or at least have at least 2 or 3 options for me once it gets around to me.
It is a great theme. This is my number 19. gamey.
Okay.
I'm a big New York Slice person. I love New York Slice, and one of the things I love about New York Slice is the same idea as the I split you choose. Is that when I split that pizza up, I am looking at everybody else to see what they have. I am making these piles depending on what I see everybody else has. And in charcuterie, I didn't feel that. I'm like, well, I have 3 breads. I'll put them in 3 separate stacks. I have 3 meats. I'll put those in 3 separate stacks. I'm not looking at anybody's stuff, and honestly, I don't even know what your private goal is. So since we're all going for the same thing, except for the private goal, it's like, well, I don't want to give anybody 2 breads. I'm not going to end up with the 2 breads, so I'm going to split the breads up. Whereas in New York Slice, maybe I'm going for 8s and you're going for 9s and he's going for 7s and we're all trying to go for 6s. It just adds more interest for me. We did play the basic game of that one as well. There are some more advanced. So I would be willing to play it again. It is really, really cute on the table. Really cute. Yeah.
I mean, I immediately thought like, oh, I can get some wooden round boards from Michael's and stain them and then make it my own deluxe version of it.
Yeah, and then bring the actual foods and everybody's just fondling them, pulling them out of a bag. Here's some blue cheese.
Just stacking it on. But that was my number
4, unfortunately, is a game that you didn't get to play because you missed the last day of the convention. It was Daybreak.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, okay. So that's also in BGA, I learned. So you're going to have to teach me later.
Yeah, this is a cooperative game as well, where you're trying to deal with the pending climate crisis. It's
fun.
Not a very happy theme.
Just as fun as charcuterie.
One person plays the US, one person plays China, one person plays the EU, and one person plays the rest of the world. And depending on who you are, you kind of have different abilities and different goals, but don't worry, those get covered up super fast, and you start making your own kind of engine, and you're helping each other. You know, like the poor rest of the world, they had so much carbon. You know, everybody else at the table was trying to help them. Yes, even the US. I played as the US. I was ignoring sometimes my own self to help others. I know that's not what we do, but that's what I was doing. And it left me thinking. It left me thinking afterwards. I think it actually is best with 4 because then you get China. We did not have China in our game, but China is obviously a major player in this whole situation. Some of it did hit a little close to home. It's like, oh, okay, that's a thing. And you can tell it's designed by the same guy who made Pandemic.
Matt Leacock.
You can kind of see his influence on the game. I think there's maybe a co-designer, but
there is, and we apologize, but I'm sure your name will make it on this video somewhere. At the moment,
it might be on screen. Who knows?
But I'm pulling it up right now. Matteo Menapace. So I'll probably mispronounce it anyway. So this is a game I was in Cincinnati on our way, Columbus, and we stopped by this game store called Yada Quest, and they had Daybreak on the shelf, and I was just like, I've heard the hype, I've seen the scores. It's 7.8 on BGG, and usually I say my goal is if it's an 8, I can buy it without doing research, and I'm probably going to be fine with it. I think I said 7, I have to do research, so 7 and up. Or under 8, I should say. Have to do research. And if it's under 7, I got to do a lot of research to even consider it. Like when it comes to blind buys like that. Melissa has a much lower scale. Hers is like 3, I think, and up. She'll just buy.
If you also only consider games that are 6.5 and above, we have a t-shirt for you.
That's true. Oh, yeah. Both of these shirts are from the Redbubble store. But Daybreak, I look forward to playing. I'm very happy that someone was recently having a discussion. I think it was in the Origins Facebook feed or something like that. And someone mentioned, hey, this is on BGA and you don't have to be a premium member to play it. This is a regular, everyone can play game on BGA.
One thing about playing it on BGA is, you do need to pay attention to each other. It is a cooperative game, and you need to help each other. You can't just live in your bubble.
Okay, so maybe not
solve the climate crisis.
Maybe not an async
help each other, unless you're really good at like looking at everybody else's stuff and saying like, "Do you need this?" or "I have some extra that." And it was easy for us because the player next to me could just look over and say, "Hey, do you have any of this symbol, or do you have any of this that you can pass to me, or do you have a way to help me with this carbon problem?" And we could just help each other. Whereas if you're playing async on BGG, you may not be able to do that.
That's true. And that's your number 4, huh? So we're getting into the top 3.
Top 3 time. I think there's going to be some overlap here.
I mean, these 3 games I'm so happy with. So number 3, this is a game I've played many, many times. You have played it many, many times. And this is a trick taker called Papa You. Any sort of overlap yet?
Unfortunately, I didn't include Papa You on my list because I've played it so very many times. It didn't feel like a new game to me, so I didn't include it. But I do love Papa You. Yes.
Now, the reason this made it and not something like a Bonfire or something like that is because I've never played the physical version until this con. So being only a BGA game to me, I felt okay including this because I really like the design of these cards and everything. Like, because you never get to see the back of the cards on BGA. So Papa You is, well, Ronald, why don't you explain Papa You since you own the game? You traveled across the world to get it.
I didn't know I was doing that. Yeah. I just found it in a shop in France, and
I like to tell people you traveled all the way to France to buy Papa You. I think I put that in the short video.
The only store that I've seen it at. So yeah. But the cards are language independent as long as you have the rules, find them online. But yeah, it's a trick taker. Unfortunately, it's a little bit of a mean trick taker. There's no trump in this game, but there is a suit that's just all points. If you get that suit, that's worth points. And then there's one card that's worth 40 points. If you get that, it's worth, and you want no points in this game. Right. So, and we play with a variant where you're passing to different people around the table. I really like that part. And then the last round, you're just stuck with what you've got. You play as many rounds as there are people. So even if you have 8 people, you're going to play 8 rounds, but they're going to be way shorter because you always use the whole deck. So it doesn't really get any longer with more people. The only thing I don't like about the in-person game is that you have to do all this math to add up your score because there's 250 points handed out every round. You have to add all that up. That's my only complaint about the in-person version.
Yeah, BGA
if you have 3 people, you can basically add up 2 people's scores, and then the third person, you can just 250 minus those. Which
is still math.
Yeah, but if you have the app like me, you can just type
that's a good point.
And it just does it for you.
But yeah, I really enjoyed Papa You. If you haven't tried it, I definitely recommend it. It's on BGA.
That a lot of people don't know about. Yeah.
True.
Well, my number 3 is one that I actually bought at the convention, and we just kept bringing it out because more people kept showing up who wanted to try it. It's called A Message from the Stars.
Mm-hmm.
We got to do a demo of this game, and we liked it. It's the, what's that game that it's like?
Decrypto, Turing Machine, or
Killer.
Something else.
I think it's most like Decrypto.
I do too.
It's Decrypto Killer. One person is like an alien who has some letters in front of them, and they're trying to send messages to the Earthlings who are all working together. So think like a Mysterium kind of vibe where one person is communicating with a bunch of others. And they're trying to use the deduction to figure out what the letters are and what the value of those letters are. And then you're also trying to figure out, like the crypto style, like 3 words. So the words you're sending back and forth are hints towards those 3 words. So it really puts you in a crunchy spot of, I want to make a word that uses these letters in a certain way, but I also need to communicate these hints about these prompts, whatever it might be. One of my prompts was green, and the only word I could think of was grass, but grass didn't have any of the letters I wanted to use. So I needed to think up something else that was green that used those letters in a way that helped them determine where those letters for deduction.
It really makes my brain feel good because you're not just working on the one goal. If it was one goal, it wouldn't be as fun. But because you're doing the 2 goals, that just had me putting, but this game is at my number 2, so I feel okay talking about it because we're coming back. Like that. This is a game that I think I should own someday. Melissa really didn't like it. And if this is your first time joining us, Melissa's my wife, so she has some say on what goes on the shelf, I guess. But she doesn't have to play it. We have Decrypto. I don't think she likes that as much, but I would rather play this over Decrypto. I don't like Turing Machine too much after that one play we did, the logic puzzle of it. But this I do like. Being able to discuss everything. I like how everyone is working together because it is a co-op. Yeah, so there's so much I like about this game, so it should find a way on my shelf someday. And this is from All Play, so thanks to All Play for showing us how to play this game.
Yeah, and they sold me some upgrades for the game, which I really, really like, and I'm glad I got those upgrades. I would have been unhappy to not have them, so...
Okay, yeah, so the game comes with a single die. The same die you find like Mountain Goats, if you're familiar with that game. It's a basic D6. But the other die are really fancy big ones. But if you have a collection of D6s hanging around your house, you really don't need the upgrade. You could just, each team can have 3 unique dice and you just assign them however you assign them. Like, I think it goes a little far giving them like, this is triangle, this is circle, and all that stuff. It's like, they could have just been 3 dice. I'm more
interested in like the little cardboard thing that holds it up so that it keeps it secret. And
that's true. That's true. But it does come with the shield.
Very pricey, so.
It wasn't, yeah. I mean, but it does come with the screen, so if you don't have that component, you just put it up against the screen, and there's no way the aliens could see that kind of stuff.
That's A Message from the Stars, which is my number 3 and Jesse's number 2.
Yeah.
And now my number 2 is actually, I don't think you actually got to play this. It's Milem. I'm not sure.
So I played it on BGA, and we actually found it at a game store on the way back and picked it up.
So, but you didn't get to play it at Origins.
Did not get to play it at Origins.
You were like asleep or something when we played, but
right.
You were just not there whenever we played. And this is this dumb little game about cats in space. Why are so many of my games about cats? But
really
it's the Celestia killer. I love Celestia, and I think it's better. Your cats have different powers, and as you put them on the rocket, you're trying to go through space and use your powers to get off on moons or planets to get points, and it's really fun. And also, there's just a little bit of take that, but it's in a very cute way. It doesn't feel Papa You-ish. It's not like, here, take 40 points. It's like, haha, I'm getting off the rocket now. You're gonna have to roll a 1 or else you're burned.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not throughout the whole game.
I do want to buy this game, and I want the expansion to go with it, but I couldn't find it for sale on any American store. So I think maybe it's in Australia right now, because all the stores I found were Australian stores. So I'm gonna wait till it comes here before I buy it.
I'm sure it will. So I was aware that it was out of print because I first looked it up once we played it on BGA. I was like, okay, I want this game. And it was sold out everywhere. And so we were passing through Nashville, and there's a store out there that had 2 copies of it. We were like, all right, $30, pretty good. But I really like this game, and it didn't make my top list because I did not play it at the convention. So how could it? But I just witnessed it being played, and I saw that a detail I didn't know was that it came out on a neoprene mat, like the whole board. And I did do an unboxing, which is already live on this channel. So
for all we know, it doesn't come with a neoprene mat. We're not sure. This is a library copy.
No,
it absolutely always comes with one. Okay.
Yeah, the one I unboxed did, and
nice.
I'm pretty sure they all come with. And for $30, you're getting a neoprene mat plus all the rest of the game in it. It's a really nice game and this is like retail store prices because not all their games were the greatest prices, but it was like $30 for a push your luck game. That'll definitely be a good time at any game night. So that's also that was your number 2?
Yep.
So we have arrived at number 1 then. All right, my number 1. This is a game that's sitting here on the table with me because I have to unbox it later because we're going to be playing it live on Twitch in a few moments. But this is The Guild of Merchant Explorers. This is a game from AEG.
It's also my number 1. So
crossover! Number 10 and number 1 crossover. Great, we can both talk about it. It's from Matthew Dunstan and Brett J. Gilbert. 2 designers I'm not familiar with, but you've made quite a game here that has lived with me for a while because someone brought this to a game night just as the night was ending. He was the last person to leave, and you're like, hey, you want to play a game? I got this game here. I was like, I saw AEG. That's usually, unlike Portal, AEG is like, okay, I'll try it. and so we played it.
Hey, Portal, if you want to sponsor the stream, let us know.
No AEG, though. I do have an AEG shirt already, so we can go ahead and do that. But we played this at 2-player, and I was just like, I really like what's happening here. This is a very nice feeling. And then when we broke it out at the convention, it was just more of that. At 4 players, it plays so smooth because one of the details I like about it, it actually mentions it here on the box. It says simultaneous play. And I always thought that simultaneous play, or not always thought, I guess in the last 2 years I started thinking this, that should be the future of board games. Is if you can make a great game where everyone's playing at the same time, it's going to be above any other game where you're taking turns, I think. So that's my number 1. I didn't tell you much about how it plays, but Ronald, can you cover that?
Yeah. I've actually only played it once before we went to the convention, and I thought it was just okay. It's also another Spiel nominee, by the way.
True.
And, playing it again there, I realized that there's a lot more to it, and I had the same problem both times, which is I thought I was doing super great and then came in like last. That's also the mark of a good game.
Yeah.
How do you play? You have like a hex grid in front of you, and as different types of terrain are revealed, it's not a roll and write. You're not marking them with a marker, but you're putting cubes on those terrains, and you're trying to expand out so you can get a foothold in some other areas so you can expand even further next time. And you just have some goals you're working on, and then there's shared goals as well. You play over a certain number of like eras. More cards get added into the deck a little bit more each time.
Mm-hmm.
You have a little special power you start getting.
I love the powers.
With my special powers, all of mine were very janky, and other people had way better ones. So there's something to be said for that. But
the powers really make the game for me. Because when we first started, I forgot about the powers. When we were playing through, flipping the cards, and it was like, oh man, this is slower than I remember. But those powers,
Kingdom Builder, the Queen game, except it's simultaneous and you have your own board. But otherwise, it's very similar to that.
I agree with that. Yeah, but I like the feeling of it. We're gonna experience some of the new maps because I've only ever played on the beginner map twice so far. And there's 4 maps that come in this box, so we'll be trying all of it. But yeah, the Guild of Merchant Explorers, AEG. Great game. Both are number ones. But I know I've been waiting for this. Maybe you've been waiting for it. Your bottom 3s. Let's talk about that really briefly.
We already talked about Predaporter.
True.
And we got to...
It's a Portal game. No shock.
Called Sushi Boat.
Oh, right. I didn't even include it because we didn't finish the game.
Unfortunately, I don't even know if I would have liked the game. The way it was taught to us was, I'm not going to explain how to win the game until after you've done 3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah, it was an odd choice.
Things. Maybe I would like that game in a different situation, but in this situation, I did not. And the other one that unfortunately I did not like was called Fort. And I think the reason is because we played the game like 100% wrong.
And that's from Leader Games. They make Vast and Root and stuff like that. So those games haven't agreed with me. So I've been hesitant to even try Fort. But maybe someday I'll try it.
It's not like those at all.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. So I don't know.
The funny thing is we played a bunch of games that didn't make either of our lists.
That's true, but we'll be talking about those in our Origins video. Maybe you already watched it. Maybe you haven't. That's here on this channel where we recap everything we did at Origins. But for now, what did you agree with on our top 10s? Have you played any games? What did we miss out on? Were you at Origins? Post all those things in the comments below. But until next time, the box is closed. Bye, everybody.